Hey guys, this is Nick Karn, and this is my Module 5 for class EDL 856, Understanding My Community, Fountain, Colorado. So some of the customs and traditions of Fountain, just some things that I found and also have seen throughout the time I've been here, is that the majority of our citizens are Republican/conservative. Most people are Christian, and then many of our traditions revolve around the military or ranching population. We also have some accolades that have been recent, such as like best places in Colorado for young families, American City on the Rise, etc. It's a growing area and it's a good place for young families due to the lower cost and it's how close it is to Colorado Springs as well. There's also some good parks. There's some good open spaces. It's a small town, so they have some cool festivals annually and community events. So it's pretty cool. And the cost of living is actually about 4% lower than the national average. So our population characteristics, we are somewhat mixed as far as our education, but the majority of people have a high school graduate or a GED, and then the rest are kind of split among associates, bachelor's, and graduate degrees. But a number I think that we're pretty proud of is that 86.5% graduation rate for our students, and then 32% higher education attainment. Age of our population is pretty young. We have a lot of 0 to 14-year-olds. We have a good amount of 15 to 34-year-olds due to the military. You know, if they're in the military, they're fairly young, and then also they have kids, so that kind of helps out those numbers there. Segmentation, is pretty split down the middle, but the majority of people are female, and then majority of people are white with a mix with the rest. And top employment industries, we have Homeland Security, which is military related again, trade and transportation logistics, specialized manufacturing, creative industries, and retail trade. Community channels that we have. We have obviously your news stations, so Fox 21 is our big one that comes to the school, but then we also have Channel 13, 11, and 5 that kind of cover our area. And then newspapers, we have Fountain Valley News and Colorado Springs Gazette there. Colorado Springs Gazette is more for the city, but it is a communication avenue for us. And then social media, of course, with the internet and everything, the majority of people get their news and updates from these two main social media outlets, but Twitter is what we use more now than Facebook. Our community groups, really four big ones that you will come across here in Fountain. The Thunder in the Valley Car Show group donates large amounts of money every year for our scholarships. Cross Creek Church is where a lot of our students go attend services, but also do community service. Fountain Valley Scholars present scholarships to our students in our community, and then Special Olympics also provides a lot of opportunities to our citizens with special needs due to our school being, a big magnet for special needs students. So we have a big influence there for Special Olympics. And then our leadership, we have two big groups really since we're a smaller area. We have the city council and the school board, and there in the middle is our mayor, and then our school board on the right. Most of those school board members have students or kids in the district, and so they're pretty passionate about what the district is doing. And obviously, education is a part of our community. Being a small area, we definitely take pride in our school, and our leaders are no different. So they have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to our community and our school, just because they're usually natives. The mayor is a native, and he went to our high school, and so did his dad before him. So like that, it's just a big tradition there for the family, and they really do care about our community. I also know they take education athletics very seriously because I always see them present at our events and in our schools, and that's pretty cool to see them present in the community as well. Based on their political affiliations, they tend to side more on the Republican political spectrum, but we do have a mix of Democrats in there as well, so it's a pretty good balance. Know our economic conditions, as far as what I know, it's actually pretty good. Taxes are somewhat low, and then property tax isn't too bad. But our unemployment rate's probably the most unimpressive as far as Colorado. We're at 3.3%, and then our county here is 3.7%, but Fountain itself has a pretty low unemployment rate. Since most people are in the military, they are employed. City's main business clusters include the following, which we've already kind of talked about, but again, there you see that Homeland Security and a lot of different things that revolve around our Army base here. The political structure is pretty simple, but it does have a direct impact on our school since we are a smaller area. For example, our city council works directly with our school board on a consistent basis. They have meetings frequently. Our police chief plays a major role as well. The city council with the mayor makes many of our local decisions, and the city manager is at the top of the pecking order when it comes to how the city is run. And this is not the best picture in the world, but it's a screenshot of kind of what our city puts out there of who's in charge of what. You can see the city manager's there at the top, and then below him you have the executive assistant city attorney, and then the deputy city manager as well. And then they all have their responsibilities, as you can see there. So pretty basic outline there, but it shows you kind of how the hierarchy of the pecking order goes in our town and who's in charge of what. Our social tensions, as far as the school goes, military versus non-military, most of our kids are military related, but there are a lot of students as well that are non-military related. So it's not necessarily tension; it just causes some issues as far as retaining students and keeping them here and working with them to progress in the school, and keeping that consistency is tough. And then also we're a small area, but we do have two different school districts, so we're kind of competing for kids, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does kind of dilute the talent pool as far as sports. It also doesn't give our kids necessarily the best option as far as one school versus the other. One school seems to be better than the other, and so that does cause some tension. Gangs, I haven't seen that many, but I know a couple of my football players were involved with some gang activity, so it is there. It's just not on a higher level as some other schools. Cliques is typical high school groups from what I've seen, mainly divided between athletes and non-athletes. Discrimination is based mainly on income here. Many of our students are low income, so maybe not discrimination as far as bullying or anything like that. I'm sure that happens, but what we usually see is the opportunities are not always there for our kids where they would be with some other, and also the nutrition piece is a big part of that, and we see nutrition differently as far as our kids versus other school districts. Power structures, throughout my brief time here, I've seen people with power, I've met people with power, and it's either a small group or an individual, whatever it may be, but they have some sort of influence in the community, and so it's good to have them on your side. It's good to get to know them and what they can do for you. Actually, a lot of them are coaches, past coaches, or past school board and city council members, so they've been here for a while, and they were civil servants. They did their deeds, and now they're still sticking around to try to help out as much as possible. But you see their names all over town on buildings and statues and all that stuff, so it's kind of interesting to see those people in real life. So in my classes, I did a quick student survey just to kind of compare data with what the city had and then what my students had. So some of it's similar, some of it's a lot different. So here you can see my students as far as diversity of race. They're pretty mixed. You can see that there is a big chunk of white, but there's also a big chunk of Hispanic, Latino, and African American. And then if you see religion here, that kind of matches what the data was saying, that most people are Christian. Family income level, I don't know how much the kids actually know, different classes and everything, since they're freshmen mostly, but most of them would identify as middle class, half of them exactly, and then the other half is kind of split between the others. But middle class is probably more right. Middle to working class is probably more where our students are at. Upper middle class was interesting, and I think that many kids would say that. What was family political views? So most of them said they'd rather not say. They're pretty polite with that kind of stuff. They don't like to talk about it. But the other thirds here, you can see that it's either neither, and then it's pretty tight between Republican or Democrat. Does your family work or have worked in the military? This is pretty basic here. You can see that almost 80% of our kids have family members who work in the military or a military-related field. Most of their information is via the internet, and pretty much everything else too. They get a lot of their information from all of these sources, but internet is probably mostly where kids get it. And then foreign languages is, about 40% of our kids speak another language, mostly Spanish, if you see here. There is some German-speaking students because they've lived in Germany, or they lived in Italy as well, so some of them speak Italian. One student does speak French, but most of them, if they are multi-language, they speak Spanish. The highest level of education that they know that their parents received is some college, is the majority, and then the rest is kind of split up there. What's interesting to see, like 10% is some high school, so I don't know if they understood that, but like some high school to me means you didn't graduate, you took high school, but you didn't graduate or get your GED there. So that's actually a pretty good chunk of the pie there. And then the graduated high school or GED is about 20%, and then the rest is split up among college. Rating their education, I just did this to see how well they think they're getting an education. Most of them said 4 to 3 star because they're somewhere in the middle. That's pretty common. Only 2 students said poor, and then a couple students said 5 star perfect, which also is the other extreme. And then 2 stars okay, needs work. So I pay more attention to the 4 to 2 star. And then I also had them say like why did they choose that answer, and then what can we do to improve it if they needed to. So that's kind of the data that I received from them. And then some celebrities from Fountain, they still stick around, which is pretty cool and help us out. So we have Chase Headley as a baseball player for the Yankees. Phil Lodeholt retired from the NFL. And then John Watts is pretty cool. He directed the Spider-Man Homecoming movie that recently came out. So he sent us a poster and everything to put up in the lobby. So it's pretty cool to see those guys that actually grew up here and are making an impact in some way outside of school. And then finally, my conclusion here, during my time at Fountain, I've learned many things about our community, but this assignment opened my eyes even more. Knowing my community helps me better understand how to be a better teacher, leader, and coach. And that's for sure as far as like knowing our kids and what works for them and what can't work for them. And as an administrator, this information can help me better understand what channels I need to go through to improve or maintain our community relations, such as those, the communication avenues and the leadership in the community, and having open communication with those people and those networks is pretty important to our kids and making our school a little better and maintaining that success that we have in this community. So that's my presentation. Leave any feedback to make it a little better, and I appreciate it. Other than that, thanks for watching and have a good one.